You have to truly believe in the magic.
What's up, Magic fans? Welcome to Orlando Magic UK's weekly podcast, A Penny for Your Thoughts. Today is Thursday, the 12th of October, and we will be recording episode 143. So today we're going to be joined by a man from the NBA UK community, who everyone will recognise. But I'll keep that a bit of a mystery until a little bit later on. Actually, there's no point, because you'd have read the title of the podcast and you'll see who it was. Never mind. So it's going to be Mr. Elliott Wade from Hoopin and Luton. So he's going to be joining us a little bit later on now. We're going to be recapping the Magic's opening game of the preseason against the New Orleans Pelicans. I'm taking a look at the ESPN NBA rank panel and just having a quick look at the 100 players that made it and offering our observations on that. So, without further ado, I am joined by Sunderland's finest this evening. On deck, Mr. Gary Craggs. How are you, mate?
I'm all right. I'm obviously not Mr. Hoopin and Luton in the face of the NBA UK community, but if you're watching from the start, this will just have to do. How are you, mate?
I'm good, thank you, mate. Not too bad, thanks. Just nice to have basketball back, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a bit different this week, isn't it? And it's a weird feeling because I think in previous years, since we blew it up, I think every season it started, it's just been, what can Paolo show us? What are the rookies going to show us? What we're going to see out of Moles, etc. This season's different. I actually have expectation. I actually have hope, and I expect to win games. And it's a totally different feeling the last few years. It's a totally different feeling. Really, even during the rebuild era with like Vooch and stuff, this just feels different. It feels more like when we actually realized we were good, when we had Dwight and Jameer and such, and there was the expectation then, and it feels a little bit like that. It feels that level of excitement, and the level of excitement when we drafted Dwight and we had like Grant Hill coming back and such. I know that didn't pan out immediately, but you knew down the line things were going to be fine. Things were going to be all right. And it feels a little bit like that, where I've got an expectation that the Magic are going to win games. Games are going to mean something. And I expect to be watching basketball after the regular season. Gee.
Excellent. Yeah. No, like you said, there's a real purpose to the team, a real direction with everybody pulling the same way. And obviously there's a lot of excitement amongst us fans and just having everybody back and, you know, good performance, which we'll get into in a little bit. But yeah, no, it's good to have Magic basketball back. So before we get into the New Orleans preseason game that we had on Tuesday night, I just want to make a mention of our Patreon. So as you may know, over a month ago now, we launched our very own Orlando Magic UK Patreon page. So basically, Patreon, if you don't know, it's a subscription service which would basically help us support us what we do here at Orlando Magic UK. Things like websites, equipment, etc. And then we do give back by way of giveaways. So we had the yearly league pass prize last month, and then we've got another prize which I'll mention in a second for October for any new Patreons on the McGrady and the Anderson tier. But I'll get to that in a second. So there are 3 levels available. That's the O'Neill tier at £2 a month, the Anderson at £5, and the McGrady at £10. So just a shout out to our patrons. So thank you to Angus Craig, Dylan Holden, Drummy, Paolo and Franz Warmth, Gary Clark, Sean Moore, Ollie Law, Liam Radbourne, and Alan Kane. And then we've had 2 new patrons join this week. So again, thank you to Mr. Mark Joss and Tom Sohn, who've joined on the McGrady tier. So thank you ever so much for your amazing support. We really, really do appreciate it. I mentioned a prize. So, you know,
It's a hell of a prize.
It is. And I'm sure we'll talk about it later with Elliott because he's a Jersey man, isn't he?
He is.
He is. So So our partners at Fanatics are going to assist us in giving away a classic jersey, the ones that synonymous with T-Mac and the Heart and Hustle team, for this month's Patreon giveaway. So all you need to do is be subscribed before the 30th of October to be in with a chance for the draw that will be made on the 1st of November. So keep your eyes peeled for that draw. So let's get into the Orlando Magic against the New Orleans Pelicans. So it was basically happy faces all around, wasn't it, Gar? Magic opened up preseason with a 122-105 win over the Pelicans. No Magic starter played more than 20 minutes. We trailed quite a bit in the second quarter. I think it was by about 16 at one point. We thought this might get a bit away from us, but luckily we executed well during the final three quarters. We didn't see much of the starters towards the in the second half to take away a 17-point win. So I know you had problems with your league pass, Gan. I'm sure you're going to get into that now. But what were your main takeaways from the W, from what you have seen, mate?
I'm not going to send anyone to sleep by talking about League Pass, just to say that I had to end up watching on her extended highlights, which I wasn't thrilled about because I had geared my whole day around watching it yesterday. So I sat down about 8:30, 9 o'clock last night to watch the game and then couldn't. So I watched the extended highlights. My big takeaway really is Wendell. I think when you look at that, and I noticed on Twitter the other day, there was one of those like tier system. I don't know why people get the time from to do this, but one of those tier system lists, and it had Wendell listed at the bottom of the NBA centers, like who get major minutes list, as like one of the worst three technically, who's like sees minutes centers. I kind of believe that really, and I think that proved, first of all, the value of Wendell, two, that he's come out firing, and three, and I know you were going to talk about the commentary, but they even picked up on the smoothness of that 3-point shot. And watching him shoot those threes so smoothly is kind of a little bit like when Vooch added the 3-point shot into his locker. And you kind of went, oh, wait on, where's this come from? This changes something. And it was smooth. There wasn't anything there where you went, that's a bad shot. That's a bad shooter. There's anything wrong with the form. It looked like he has really worked on what was pretty solid. It was okay. It was like league average last year. But I think Wendell was there. And then obviously it was a highlights package. But on that highlights package, it was pretty obvious that Mr. Banchero had came out with, I think I'll just leave everybody with a few moments to remind you who I am. And year two is about to start. And Paolo just looked, to be honest, his hops looked better. He looked as though he had a little bit more athleticism, and he looked as though he was taking some of that defensive energy from the Olympics, which had been commented on, and brought it back to Orlando with him. So that was my two key takeaways, Wendell and Paolo, and the GOAT did GOAT things, but we'll come to
that. Just to add up on that Banchero point, I mean, he was matched up against Zion Williamson. And his defense on Zion, I think Zion might have got past him maybe once, but there was a couple of really good stands there where he actually stood up to him. And Zion's he's a big guy, isn't he? Throws his weight around. So Banchero being able to hold his own, just great to see. And then it was that highlight dunk where he just took Zion off the dribble and stuffed it in over Valanciunas. So yeah, let's get some more of that tonight.
Geez, would you say though that Paolo really, like, what we've got here is, when you think about it, he's 6'10", 6'11". He's one of the few guys in the league who can actually stand there with Zion and absorb, because Zion's built like a baby Shaq.
Yeah,
that's what he's built like. But 6'10", 6'11", 250, 260, and moving like he does. Paolo's probably one of the few players in the league who has enough bulk on him to stand in front of Zion and do that, because there are players like who've got talents like Mo Bamba, but there's obvious frailties in their build, their physique. Paolo's one of the guys who's got the bulk to absorb some of what Zion throws at him. So yeah, it's a friendly, but it's interesting.
Yeah, no, that's a good point, mate. Good point. For me, I know we'll get on to Cole a little bit more later, but the aggressiveness that Cole came out with was just really good to see. You're loving this, aren't you?
Talk about the GOAT. Talk about the goat. Get the goat love.
But if you got a spare bit of money, put some money on Cole Anthony to win Sixth Man of the Year. The Magic make some noise. He's going to be a big part of that, and he spearheads that bench unit. He's the guy who's going to have the ball in his hands. So shoots the ball as well as he can. Then the NBA should be on notice really. So yeah, but you mentioned at the top there, the New Orleans Pelicans broadcast crew. So obviously we didn't get to hear David or Jeff on this one. We had to make do with New Orleans. But in fairness, Antonio Daniels and Joel Myers, absolutely first class. It was a bit odd listening to two other commentators, but the research and the knowledge that they had on the opponent was something you don't really see in the NBA with the some of the broadcast crews. I won't mention any names, but some aren't very good in comparison. But no, I'd certainly put Antonio Daniels and Joel Myers right up there. But they commented on the Magic's depth a number of times. And you got to bear in mind, Joe Ingles wasn't playing also last night. But how nice was it to hear from what you did hear, Gary, and you've obviously seen on Twitter or X, the positivity from the opposition? Didn't it?
I think. Sorry,
Go
sorry.
No, go on. Go on.
I think with the positivity bit, I don't get too riled by it anymore because I'm just kind of used to it. That we haven't been looked at, we haven't been known about. And I think that part of that's maybe our own doing with where the team's been since Dwight left town. So I don't get too riled. It is nice to hear people giving positives. And I think it's a respect thing. And I think it goes back to expectation. Like, God love them, but players like Vooch and Fournier weren't getting the media attention for the Magic. They just weren't. And there wasn't that expectation. It was almost like, if we can get the 8th seed and get into playoffs, that's kind of where we're at, and we've done well this season. And we know there was a cap on that. And I think if they weren't watching, and I've heard Antonio Daniels on before, and he knows the game. You can tell he's knowledgeable. But I think if people weren't watching before, what's happened over the summer with Paolo and Franz has made people sit up and take notice. And I think those two guys now, where it's flown under the radar a little bit in recent years, Paolo, probably one of the most slept on rookies of the year.
Yeah.
In how long? I think people now are thinking, hold on, maybe is there something cooking down in Orlando with these two? And I think Franz doing what he did on the international stage has woken people up, where it's no longer we just got to think about. I think people are starting to realize now why Magic fans were saying that Franz had a legitimate shot at winning Rookie of the Year that year.
Yeah.
And I think people are starting to see that now, because you do a redraft and that draft class, Franz is going top 3. And he wasn't in the top 3 when he should have been for the Rookie of the Year voting. And you're probably saying it would be Franz, Cade, Mobley, and then I think probably Jalen Green would get and Josh Giddey would get a say. The Rookie of the Year from that class, nowhere near.
Yeah.
Those guys. But I think that would be your clear top 5 if you were doing a redraft. And I think Franz is right at the top end of it.
Absolutely. I mentioned there at the top about Cole being aggressive. What do you like about what he brought?
He was in attack mode straight away. And I know we spoke off air about this, G, but I think if people were watching the Magic, and again, it's preseason, don't get carried away, this type of thing, I understand it. But I know you'll say it's situational, but I will die on this hill that if you said put your best 5 players from the Orlando Magic on the court to play, your best 5, I'm definitely putting Paolo and Franz in there. I'm putting Markel in there. I'm putting Cole in there. And I'm probably going with Wendell as my 5th one. And then the only challenger to that right now would be Jonathan Isaac, about whether you put him in ahead of Wendell. But I would die on the hill that our best backcourt right now is Cole Anthony and Markel Fultz.
Yeah, it's very hard to argue that, my friend. And you mentioned Jonathan Isaac there. You know, he was back. You can see the impact that he makes. You know, he makes the opposition really think, you know, can I do that? Can I not? So having him on the floor, you know, is a real positive for our defense. Did you like what you saw from him?
Well, he had his big ball of Judas on, didn't he?
He did. He did. Available in the UK as well now, by the way.
Are you getting a pair, G?
I've got so many pennies, mate. I don't know if I got enough room.
How much will a pair of Judas set you back in the UK?
I don't know. I'll see if I can research that whilst we're recording.
Oh no, it's fine. I just I wondered. I'm not going to get a pair of Judas. I just thought I'll throw that out there. But I saw them. I saw a couple of plays with GI involved, and to be honest, what was really heartening about it is he didn't look like a guy who's missed the amount of time that he's missed. He looked mobile. He looked fluid. Offensively, I think there's a little bit more to come with him. He's going to have rust on him. But in terms of his physique, in terms of his foot movement, in terms of his defense that he was bringing, it looked like Jonathan Isaac when he came back in for the 11 games last season. And what we need is we need a Jonathan Isaac who's going to give us the minutes that we need him to give us. And I want Jonathan Isaac to play over 60 games for the Magic this season. Yeah. Because I think if Jonathan Isaac features in 60 games plus, I think Orlando's got a pretty good record.
Yeah, absolutely, mate. Absolutely. We're just going to have a quick conversation about individual performances, but we've touched upon Cole, we've touched upon Wendell, we've just mentioned JI. The bench, obviously, they played quite a lot, you know, last season together, you know, even with the starters, etc., situational, you know, obviously we've had a lot of injuries, etc., but what they did in that second half, they looked like a team, whereas the Pelicans bench, I don't know what you'd have seen of the highlights of this, didn't look as cohesive as our lot did. And it just really showed our depth. So I just wanted to...
I'm not being I'm probably being ignorant on the Pelicans here, G, but do you think the Pelicans have got the depth that we have?
No, I don't think they do. I'm just looking at their roster now. Kira Lewis Jr., Larry Nance Jr., who also came out, by the way, and said that Franz Wagner is really underrated. Cody Zeller, Troy Murphy III didn't play. And if I'm being honest, I don't recognize many of the others. Gates, Liddell, Marshall, Jameson. Yeah. Dyson Daniels, actually.
They've got a good 9-person rotation.
Yeah, that's fair.
But I think that when you look at how deep we go, we can field a pretty strong second starting five and then have people saying, why am I not in that? Like if that starting five, what came out for the Magic is the opening night starting five, which I think it will be.
Yeah.
I think that's the team that's going to start. When you look at what could be behind them, you've got Cole Anthony, you've got Gary Harris, you would put in Joe Ingles, maybe?
Joe Ingles, yeah.
Right, okay. Jonathan Isaac. And then do you put in Mo Wagner? Do you put in Goga Patadze? We haven't mentioned Anthony Black, Jet Howard. And then you haven't even considered the Chuma, but then Mac McClung as well. I'm going to get his name in, but that's from our G League. Then you're bringing in guys like Mac McClung. You're looking at Kevon Harris. You're looking at Admiral Schofield. Those three guys actually have a legit argument that they would be on an NBA roster. And we've got them as guys who are not guaranteed to get minutes.
Yeah, you're right.
And if you want a picture of how far our journey's come for the Magic, when you look at some of the players who've been getting minutes under the Hennigan era, and you look at some of the players who were getting minutes when we had Cliff here, obviously injury curse had hit, and in the rebuild, and you look at it now, those guys wouldn't get anywhere near the Magic's team.
No.
And I'm talking starters as well. There's starters who played for the Magic I don't think would get any minutes at all now.
No, interesting that. Yeah. You mentioned Black and Jet Howard. They obviously got to play some minutes on Tuesday night, showed some flashes. Good to see them make their debuts, mate.
It's good to see them. I stand by what I said last week. I think they're going to have to earn what they get this season. It's a different time period now. You know, when we had the draft where we copped in Jalen and France, they were obviously going to feature big minutes for the Magic. Paulo Banchero, number one pick, he's going to take big minutes. But in previous times, we've looked at it and we know that, for example, we drafted Cole. He was going to play minutes, not the minutes he expected him to play because of the injury situation, but he was going to get minutes. Now it's like, you guys are here. Welcome to the Magic, but you might not see the court time that you hoped. And that could be the things that stops these guys from making all rookie teams and such. And that for them, they're gonna, if they're featuring in our team, they've earned it, or there's been injuries. It's one of the two. But I think at the start, they're gonna, any minute they get, they're gonna have to earn. So it's lovely to see them. You wish them the best. I think Jet Howard in particular fills a need for us that we don't have. The shooting stroke, the offensive end is there. I think there's going to be nights if he does get minutes where you think, wow, there's something there with the 3-point ball. He can give us something different. He can space the floor. And then Anthony Black, it's interesting where he's going to see minutes for me. And it goes...
He did do a lot of good stuff. I mean, just seeing him on the court on Tuesday night, you know, he was being guarded by, you know, these bigger guards, and he was taller than them. His length. So he brings something else, you know. Obviously needs a bit of work on his jump shot, but, you know, that'll come. You know, he's going to have to put the work in there. But he's got all the tools to be, a very successful NBA player.
And we obviously hope that he is. I just think with the defensive end, you've got Markel, you've got Jalen, you've got Gary Harris, you've got three good defenders who have their calling card there straight away in our backcourt. So I think that for Anthony Black to get in there, that jumper is going to have to improve. He's going to, if he adds the jumper, then there's an argument about him starting to see minutes. But without the jumper, you've got to prove defensively and offensively you deserve the minutes ahead of those three. So he's going to have to earn it.
Yeah, for sure.
Good luck to him.
For sure. So the Magic now play tonight against the Cleveland Cavaliers in Cleveland. So more of the same, Gary, do you think? Just no injuries.
No injuries, please. None. I don't want any injuries. Will Joe Ingles feature? Is one question. I don't know. Has anything come out of that?
Nothing's come out, but I think they said before the game that Mosley's going to rest players periodically. So I think Ingles got the nod on Tuesday night, obviously having played in the World Cup. So maybe Franz doesn't play tonight, potentially, and maybe Ingles gets his spot. I don't know.
I wonder if GI plays tonight.
Yeah, I mean, No, it's not a back-to-back, but I mean, we don't play now, I don't think, until next Monday against the Pelicans at home, Monday or Tuesday. And then obviously we finish with Flamengo end of next week. So there's a bit of time there just to get your conditioning up. So
do you think, what do you think? Do you think you're going to see the same 5 roll out to start the game, or do you think you might tweak it?
I think Franz will get a bit of a rest tonight myself, just because, the World Cup players, potentially Paolo, just see, what else other people can do. He's going to rest some people. I can't see him, resting the rookies. Jalen's come out, since, before preseason in training camp and everything, like a man on a mission. I don't think anyone's going to stop him playing. So my guess would be Paolo or Franz, but what do I know? So we shall see. But you just want more of the same, play maybe 20, 24 minutes for the starters, compete, and the bench finish them off, isn't it?
Mac McClung with a 50-point performance off the bench.
We love that. Are you still getting a Mac McClung jersey?
You never know, G. If you're sending those Welsh dollars this way, you never know.
Yeah. Good stuff. Right then, it's time to get our guest in this week. So this is a man who needs no introduction, but he's going to get one anyway. So he's the owner of Hoopin' and Luton, which, by the way, is the UK's #1 jersey destination. He's a host at the Gloucester City Kings basketball club. He is a sponsor for the Bristol Flyers and an all-around good guy. Mr. Elliott Wade, how are we, sir?
I am very good, mate. Very good. Basketball season is back. So it never really stops. But NBA basketball and British basketball official seasons are back. So yeah, everything is good.
Absolutely. And just tell us a little bit about your promotion of the British basketball with your store, selling the jerseys. You're making real waves, aren't you?
I'm trying. I'm a little man just doing what he loves. So yeah, basically Hoopin' and Luton I am 3.5 years old now. The core of the business is selling basketball jerseys. That's NBA jerseys, British basketball jerseys from all over the world, basically all under retail. We've now done well over 3,500 orders in the time, just me being on my own. But we're now branching out to try and be a platform for creatives around the UK, for small entrepreneurs, people which have a passion for basketball and do their own little side hustles. So I've launched a thing called the Basketball Creatives Platform, where other brands have their items held in H&L HQ. So I send out all of the orders and everything. So it's still the same, like #1 service, everything sent out straight away. But it's a chance to grow the store, so have other people seen who otherwise wouldn't. So we've got all range of things from performance tees to graphic tees to socks, shorts, NBA prints and Paolo Banchero prints online now, the Skybox ones, and more things coming from there. So it's great that I've been able to build up a platform for other people's work to be seen. And yeah, but a lot of what I do goes back into British basketball and basketball around here. There's a chance to impact lives and increase opportunities to the younger generations that may not have had them before. So from me starting a jersey business in the first place, it's actually given me a voice and opportunity to be seen and be heard and have an effect on changing people's lives. So it's a blessing. It's a lot of hard work. People often see the outside and think it's just selling jerseys, take a couple of pictures, but it's a lot of hard work. It's me on my own. It's tireless nights. It's frustrating nights thinking what's next, what needs to be done. You probably know, G, that I'm a bit of a perfectionist myself. Yeah. So obviously everything has to look right and done right. It can mean hours up a ladder to take one photo to get 20 likes on social media. But as I say, it's what I love doing. It's all worth it in the end, and it gives me a chance to go up and down the country watching them. Supporting basketball. So yeah, that's me.
No, you're doing a brilliant job, mate. And I gotta just point it out. I'm wearing one of your jerseys from your most recent drops. I was very lucky to be first there at 7 p.m. a couple of Fridays ago. So made up with his Franz Wagner jersey. So like I said, just check Elliott out. He's got a Banchero prints on there. You've got all sorts of t-shirts. Just absolutely brilliant what you're doing. So kudos to you, mate. Kudos. I didn't ask. I just wanted to know, how's Winston doing? I haven't had a Winston update in a while.
It's Winston and Twinston now, mate. So
no, I know. And I was going to ask you, I was talking to Gary before we came on, and it's like, Elliott's got to tell us the story about Winston and Twinston. So would you be so kind to tell our listeners the story?
Yeah, so I've got my little black cat, Winston. I say little, he's a panther now. He is absolutely massive. And I went away to Spain. Again, I'll put my diplomatic hat on here. He managed to escape whilst my neighbour was feeding him whilst I was away on holiday. Now, Winston is a house cat that I tried taking outside a few times, and he has absolutely none of it. He's like, no, I like the warmth, I like my sofa, I've got free reign of the house. So Winston went missing for about 5 days. I came back from holiday early to go and search around for him, couldn't find him anywhere. Then we got told that a cat had been found, a black cat, about half a mile away. So I've gone down to this house, and this woman had heard this cat getting beaten up by about 4 or 5 other cats. She'd taken him in and fed him, and apparently he went through 5 tins of food straight away, so he'd lost a lot of weight. I've gone down there. and it looked exactly like Winston, but had just lost a bit of weight. So like this cat's spine was protruding through its back, but this cat was petrified of everything, but came bounding straight up to me. So to the house, I came back up to the house, got Winston's bed, got his favourite toy, took it down to the cat. The cat jumped straight in the bed, taking the toy in his mouth as he usually would, brought him back home, using his litter tray as anything. Now, this cat was obsessed with me, like wouldn't leave my side, was petrified of everything. So I didn't want to take. I had little doubts in my head, but he had same like ginger stripes underneath on a black cat. I was like, do you know what? Something's saying it's not him. But everyone was telling me I was being stupid. They're like, no cat would be like that with you. And I didn't want to take him to the vets for the first week or so because he was petrified of everything. So if I took him into the vets and he saw another animal, it would have just been a horrible experience for him. And then I think after about a week and a half or so, I was like, I kind of don't want to give up this cat anyway. So I kind of convinced myself it was my hat. 3 months later, get a phone call from the vet. Is that Elliott? It's like, yeah, why? I'm like, we've got Winston here. So I looked down at my lap. I was like, no, he sat on my lap. They were like, no. We've checked his microchip. We've got Winston. So it turns out I've got another cat that's just been living rent-free in my house for 3 months, like eating on his food, pretending to be my cat. So no one knows where Winston was. These other people had him for 2 weeks and then realised he wasn't their cat because he wasn't acting like their cat. So I took, so Winston was microchipped, obviously. So I went down so I could take him back, which was fine. I introduced him to the other cat, which I had, and they were fine straight away, like absolutely fine. But I've taken this other cat down to the vets. Turned out that when I found him, he would have been 6 months old. He was a stray, so he'd never had any owner. So he'd never been litter trained or anything, but managed to use Winston's litter tray straight away. Came straight up to me, like shit in my own. So obviously because he had no owner, then I decided to adopt him, and the name Twinston. So my two black cats are now living in harmony. Winston is a very good, very patient brother. So Twinston looks like a little bit of a runt of the litter. So he's very small and annoying to other cats and gets very jealous when Winston gets attention from me. But Winston is just a chilled out panther that sort of watches his lair over. And yeah, I've got 2 happy cats now. So they're good, enjoying themselves.
That's brilliant, mate. No, when we were reading it, when you were posting the updates on Twitter, you know, we were in stitches. Absolutely brilliant. So no, thank you.
Shout out Melvin from Sons UK too, because he came up with the name Twinston. So yeah, he could take the credit for that. But yeah, they're my boys and they're happy. They're annoying little. I don't want to swear on here. They're annoying little ricks on occasions, but yeah, they like to eat everything in my house. But yeah, I wouldn't change it for the world.
Yeah, cool. Gary,
I was fully invested in the whole Winston saga. I've got to say it. I was like logging on Twitter and stuff, and like, come on, like find Winston. And then when the cat that is now Twinston rocked up, I was like, thank goodness for that. And then I remember logging on one day, and it was at the top, and it was here's Winston. I was like, what on earth have I missed? I feel as though I'd like ripped 20 pages out of the Lord of the Rings or something, and then like picked it back up and like, oh, what's happened here? Fully invested.
Yeah, there was another tweet. There was a similar story which went viral. It wasn't as good as mine, but it was basically the same thing that someone had it made. So I got a lot of messages afterwards saying that someone copied your story. But my boys aren't famous yet. I'm sure their time will come.
We all love the black cats on this pod. We all love the black cats. Gino's what I say.
He's a Sunderland fan, mate. They call the black cats.
We've got to go for it.
I won't mention how successful their neighbours are at the moment.
Yeah, there's a lot of things we could say about that, but we'll leave that to the Daily Mail. I was going to ask, but you've already told the story of the Hooping and Luton story to the Magic community who are listening, Elliot. But I'll just like to jump on the back of what G said at the start, and I ordered a couple of jerseys off you, the OKC ones, for one of my friends who lives out the country, and I would just say that the quality and the service how quick they come through. And if he's looking for Thunder jerseys because he lives in the Middle East, he will message me and be like, "Has that guy you know? Has he got any? Has he got any new
Good plug.
jerseys?"
He gets free shipping now. If the order's over £100, it's free worldwide shipping.
I will let him know. But he's had me he's had me like sitting there going, "Is there anything on the drop? Is there?" Because he's 2 hours ahead, and I'm like, "Yeah, there's an OKC jersey there. What color?" And I said, and he's like, "Right, I'll have that." So he's got a blue and an orange OKC jersey, courtesy of Hooten and Luton, which now reside in Doha, and he absolutely loves them. So
that's good. I mean, it's great when you have people coming from around the world. So I've actually had people who have come over and visited the studio from South Africa. I've had an Australian, I've had a couple of Americans come over. And whilst they're on their holidays to Manchester, I've gone, "Oh, can we come into your studio?" Which is still quite a wild thing for me when I'm shipping orders all over the world. I think it's 140 different countries that I've actually shipped jerseys to. That's how many different countries visitors have come from. But it's quite a mad thing to think sort of one little person and what started out as just couldn't find a jersey, so thought I'll start up my own thing. Has grown into, and that's the key for me. It's giving everyone the opportunity to get jerseys. That's why the drops are done as they are. Is everyone has the equal chance to get a jersey at the right price. There's no sort of premiums placed on something because it's rare. Obviously, if I'm getting game worn jerseys and stuff like that, then obviously they're going to have a premium on them. But in terms of retail jerseys, everything's always priced below retail, so people will have the chance to get those jerseys even if they're not multi-millionaires that can afford to spend whatever they want. At them times are hard at the moment, so it's good to be able to support, and especially with the kids jerseys now. When I started off, it was giving out kids jerseys because they were so unaffordable to people. I mean, charging parents £70 for a jersey which a kid is likely to grow out of in 6 months to a year. It's just completely unsustainable. And at first, when I was giving out jerseys, was when I was quite small, so I was able to do that. As it got bigger and bigger, and all the demands for everything, so it's still over 350 jerseys, which kids' jerseys, which I've given away. It just got too much, and I was finding that as I got bigger, the demand was there and there for people to asking for kids' jerseys, and sort of clicked in my head that actually, if I'm turning people away because I say I don't want to charge for jerseys, actually is that turning people away from the sport of basketball? Because if they've got that £40 in their hand, are they going and buying them a football jersey instead? Because they can't get hold of basketball jerseys. So actually is my own pride a little bit of a detriment to the sport. And then it was the dilemma in my head of saying, well, I didn't want to charge for kids' jerseys, but actually, if I'm still getting them for a reasonable price for people, then we can do that. And that's then why I launched my own kids' jerseys, which are a significantly cheap price. They're only £25. It means all the money which I generate from them means I can go providing free jerseys to these kids' camps, to inner city schools and stuff when they need them to give them out to get them into the sport. So it's just a whole progression, and that's from the eyes which people see and get over to there. So that's the benefit of doing things not just for as much profit as you can, is actually thinking long term and having a goal of wanting to make an impact on the sport, and not just thinking, do I want to get a quick buck in my pocket?
It's what's as a bit of a connoisseur of a jersey, which G will also back up on this, is that it's nice when your jerseys, when you're ordering, that you know you're getting a legitimate jersey as well. I know that it's fine, and that's a big thing.
Yeah, it's very, very hard, and I've always said, so wait, I've got no problem with people which buy fake basketball jerseys because it's an expensive thing. It's a luxury item, and anyone that's wearing a fake jersey is free advertisement for me. Because if someone sees it and goes, "Oh, that jersey looks cool," they're going to go online, and chances are they're going to come across my store. Yep. My issue has always been if someone's selling a jersey fake, which they know is fake, and saying it's a real jersey. Luckily, we're quite blessed in the UK that all of the people which sell us, the main stores, are all very good, and we will communicate with each other if we see something that's wrong. That, we're very blessed in the UK that we have people which will look out and try not to mislead people. But then you go onto your auction sites, so forth, and it's just littered with them, like your markets down in London and so forth.
Yeah.
But yeah, that like, I mean, we still make mistakes. I've handled well over 7,000 jerseys now, and there'll still be ones which you come across and you're like, not sure about that. I don't know. They're getting better and better, but you know, it's the same with anything. If people want legitimacy checks, then the same as always. Just find me on my social, send it over, and you'll get a response.
Yeah. So you're a fan of the Brooklyn Nets, as a lot of people know, and you got to go to Brooklyn, to the Barclays Center.
Yeah, that was
basketball game. So tell us all about it.
That was in. I was trying to work it out. I was talking about it yesterday. I can't remember if it was the start of last year. Like all these years are merging into one for me now. I think that's a sign of age. Once you get to like past your mid-30s, you're kind of like, I don't know what year we're in. I work out what day of the week it is by what sport is on TV. But when I went over there was when there were still some restrictions in America on traveling after the whole COVID pandemic, etc. So when I went over to New York, was like having my own private holiday because there was no one else there, which was for me really good. So when I went up the Empire State Building, there was only one other person up there, which was quite enjoyable. But I got to go out to the Long Island Nets to sit courtside and go on the Jumbotron advertising the merchandise deal of the day. And it was a bizarre experience. But I say bizarre, it was very, very humbling because I've wanted to go out to New York since I was a kid, ever since watching Home Alone 2. Circumstances in my life have meant I was never in the position, health-wise or financially, to be able to do it. And it kind of got into my head that it was something that may never happen. So when I was over there, it was quite hard to take it all in at first because you sometimes build things up so much in your mind that you're like, actually, is the reality of this going to be not like the fairy tale in your mind? But it was anything but that. And when I was at the Long Island Nets game, their head of socials came out with like merchandise bags and stuff like that. And I had tickets for one game, which was the game where KD injured himself and was then out for basically the rest of the season. We didn't see that because we were on dance cam on the Jumbotron. So sort of for 5 minutes, everyone was just like surrounding this person. But then at the Long Island Nets game, the Long Island Nets GM came down and said, have you got tickets for one of the other days? And I was like, well, I haven't bought them yet because I was going to see how good a ticket is. He's like, I'll take my number and send me a WhatsApp later. And he was like, I'll sort you out with tickets. I was like, no, those things. He's like, yeah, I can get as many as you want. He's like, I'll send you 6 and you can go and find some random people. But it was mad out there because I went and sat in those seats, but I actually ended up moving because there's a section called the Brooklyn Block, the Brooklyn Brigade there, and they invited me to come up with there, which was also just another bizarre experience when I'm this literally little bloke from England is at the Brooklyn Nets and these fans are asking for selfies with you and because they've seen you be on their seats on their halftime shows and stuff. And it was just the whole experience was absolutely incredible. Everything about New York and Brooklyn. So the last day when I was there, it snowed. So I just went in the evening, sat underneath the Brooklyn Bridge at night, everything lit up, all the city of Manhattan with just snow sat under there. And it was just sort of the perfect day. I got to do the Home Alone 2 trail. So I was doing that by myself, going through the park and Grand Plaza Hotel. So yeah, it was just an incredible experience. And I'd love to go out there again. Obviously it's a big commitment to do that money-wise and so forth. And when I'm the only person working for myself, it's very hard to take a longer period of time off, especially with the commitments I have to British basketball clubs, to Gloucester, to Manchester, to Bristol. It's hard to find a longer bit of time off, but it's definitely something which I want to do again. But there's also that, is it going to live up to the first time you've been? I kind of like that as a magical experience, you know. I was fully into the Brooklyn Nets then, but now my priorities are more British basketball. So yeah, I'd love to go out there again, but it's not at the top of my list. There's other things which I want to do here. But, yeah, I still love my Nets, even as even if we get Magic bad, I'll still love my Nets.
Well, Elliot, the Nets are being talked of still as a playoff team, and obviously this is a Magic podcast, and you've got more of an insight certainly than me. KD's gone, so I'm looking at it and I'm going, well, why are the Nets being talked up as a playoff team? Sell us on the Nets for the season.
There's a lot of potential there. I mean, some see it as a positive that there's no real expectation set. I'm a sportsman, so I like winning. And I think when I came last time on this pod, I said about the dangers of tanking, that you get in that mentality of losing. It's very hard to get out of a system of losing when you're so used to it, regardless of your talent level. Especially I'm not a fan of tanking anyway, and even when drafts, you can never guarantee if a draft pick is going to be good. There's absolutely zero guarantee. It's why it's always bizarre for me when these players are traded away for so many draft picks and stuff. It's strange. But the Nets, they've got good players there. The thing which is the difference is there's a potential all-star to come back. Now he's actually had a chance to recover from a broken back. That's what he had. A broken back, and so Ben Simmons can step up. You've got a number one pick that is an all-star and something which not many teams have in the league. There's not many people like Ben Simmons. Obviously, that's a big risk that can happen. You've then got Mikal Bridges, who has obviously last year has stepped up to put up incredible numbers and to be the leading man. You've then got people like Cam Johnson, Spencer Dinwiddie. I'm not Spencer Dinwiddie's greatest fan, but he's a mid-level, and I don't mean a mid-level player with any disrespect, because every player in the NBA is in the upper echelons of a sports player, but in terms of basketball players, so if he can be a sixth man, then he's good. And it depends what
Joe Harris as well, haven't you?
Sorry?
You got Joe Harris still.
Joe Harris is gone.
Oh, he's
Joe
gone,
Harris
is he?
Left. Yeah, he's on the Pistons.
Oh, is he? Right, I missed that one.
I don't know, but what a wonderful day that was. What an absolutely wonderful day. The most overrated player that has ever played in the NBA, but he's got a good gimmicky fist pump. But the biggest thing for the Brooklyn Nets, the potential they've got, is Cam Thomas. Now, Cam Thomas has that. It's very, very, very rare that you will get a 20-year-old that can score 40 points 3 games in a row, ever. Sorry, it's very rare that you will get a player that can score 40 points 3 games in a row. For a 20-year-old to do that, my worry with the Brooklyn Nets is the coaching staff and the owners, is that they're going to restrict that. And when a person is 20 years old, I couldn't care less if they can't defend. I couldn't care less if they take the wrong option. If someone has that talent and can put up numbers like that, it is so rare to happen that you say just go out and ball. And especially in a situation where we're saying the Nets have no expectations, this is the perfect chance to say to that kid, go out and ball, because he'll learn the rest of it. If he's going to be that good a player, he'll learn the rest of it. Let's take the biggest example. People are going to say you're wild for using this person's name in it. But Kobe Bryant, when he was shooting all those air balls when he first came in, no one said to him, start passing instead. No one said to him, you can't do this. There's a potential there for Cam Thomas to be one of the best picks that there's been, and one of the most missed out on players to go on. So the Nets should reach the playoffs. There's enough talent there. There's enough solid rotational players with Baisley coming in. That is getting to the playoffs something to be excited about.
Absolutely.
Maybe for some teams. For me, it's not. I want to win. I understand the fun of doing it and understand that's not going to happen, but my mentality as a sportsman is you want to win. So we should make the playoffs, but you never know. You never know how players step up. You never know what's going to happen.
No. Interestingly, I just want to add on Joe Harris there. Did you know that Joe Harris was traded to Orlando and waived the same day prior to joining the Nets?
Oh, you got away with one there, mate. My issue,
2016, I think it was.
I'm just going to clear this up because a lot of people say, why do you hate Joe Harris? I don't hate Joe Harris. Joe Harris could have been a very good basketball player, but Joe Harris disappeared when he was required. when he needed to step up, and he was the fourth highest paid player in the Brooklyn Nets. But when people relied on him, when he was needed in playoffs, he shirked away and shirked responsibility. That was my frustrations with him. That's why I was like, why are we paying 20 million for a guy who, if it's an important game, is going to be nowhere to see? And you'd see that when we played lower level teams, he'd be taking 6, 7, 8 shots a game. When we play a top team, he'd take 3 shots a game. And that's not the output you need from a 20 million a year player.
No. So then, who's finishing higher, Orlando or Brooklyn?
Brooklyn.
Okay. Should we put a
Well, when you go
wager?
82, when you go 82, it's quite hard for other teams to be above you.
I love the confidence. Every year, isn't it? 82-0. Good man, love it, mate.
And then the prediction changes based on everyone. So it might be 81-1 after the first game, but you know.
Yeah.
I think I remember when you said with Cam Thomas there. I remember when he was drafted in the NBA, and a comparison that he got as a scorer was Donovan Mitchell. That was a legit comparison. To saying if you had a late first rounder or like a pick in the 20s and you wanted to take a flyer on someone who could put points on the board, Cam Thomas was given a Donovan Mitchell upside.
Yeah, I think everyone thought he had a bit of potential, but then when it happened last year, it's like I say, it just shows the mentality of someone there for a kid, because that's what he is. He's still only 21 now. For a 20-year-old last season to go out in Madison Square Gardens, win a game by scoring 40, you've got to have something special about you to do that. That can't just be any run-of-the-mill guy that can go and do that in elite level NBA games. Because bearing in mind, although this was when there was a little bit of fuss around Brooklyn, we'd just been on a like 20-1 run. So there were still title aspirations there. KD hadn't left. KD had just gone out injured, and that's when Cam stepped up. So it wasn't as if this was a end of season thing where there's no real pressure on. This was when Brooklyn was still being looked at as a title contender, that a 20-year-old is going and doing that and leading a title contending team. That it takes a lot of mental strength and ability to do that.
We saw one of our own young guards do a demolition job on the Knicks in Madison Square Garden, didn't we, G?
We did.
That would be Mr. Cole Anthony himself when the GOAT decided to come to play. It was all she wrote for the Knicks that day. And there's a little rhyme in there for you as well. Who's the... Obviously, we're going to look at Bridges and say he's the best player on the Nets. Who would you say is the second best player if they're projecting as a playoff team? Is it Simmons, or like I'm seeing some people online saying Claxton?
Claxton made a phenomenal league last season. And I have to admit that I was on Claxton's back a lot for the season before, because there's no way as a youngster you should be averaging 20 games a season. Through injury, his fitness were concerns for me. He looked unfit in terms of he was out of breath quickly. He didn't look like he had the stamina. Now, for me, that's a mentality issue. If you're not fit enough to play at the NBA level, that's something down to you. That's not looking at injury problems. But last year, he was absolutely phenomenal. And it looks like the steps he's made up again. So he's actually gone full circle. He's kind of done the opposite of what Joe Harris did. And that's why I love Claxton so much. I wouldn't say he's the second best player, but I'd say Ben Simmons is the most important player for how he comes out this year. If Ben Simmons is on top form, then Nets are a problem for a lot of people. Ben Simmons isn't, then Nets aren't. That's the end of the season. That's over. Because although we may have several good players, Ben Simmons is an exceptional player if he's playing well and he's on his game. Second best player, I'd say probably if they're on their best form, it's every player at their best form, then Ben Simmons would be one. And Mikal Bridges would probably be number two if they're on their very best form. But Mikal Bridges is obviously proving it and doing it for a long time. There's no real question marks. Claps has made a massive leap, but I think there's another leap for him to go. The problem is the contract years for a lot of players at Brooklyn Nets, and Nick Claxton is one of them. So he's also going to need to make that leap if he wants a contract at the end of it. Contract years usually go one of two ways for players. They either make an incredible step up, or it goes the other way where they don't. So again, this is why it's sort of tilting on a knife edge for the Nets this season. It could go one of either way, but I'm more than confident it will go the 82-0 way.
Because we've seen the jumpers and the 3-point shots from Ben Simmons in the gym, which it tends to be the a lot of players do this in the summer where they've got their workout videos, they've got their friend holding a phone, and it's like, I'm coming back. And we've seen a lot of that ourselves. We've seen like Jalen Suggs putting up shots before. We've seen some of Cole's tapes. We've seen Markel shooting, etc. And it hypes you up a little bit because you're like, for these guys, they've found their range. We already know that G's got his neck on the block for this is the season for Markel. So if I said neck on the block and you had to project Ben Simmons now, what would you project? What we're saying at the end of the season about him?
Do you know what? I'd absolutely love to step up, and more so that I loved him before he came to Brooklyn Nets. And I think putting my little romantic hat on is I love seeing people overcome obstacles when they're belittled by people. So when Ben Simmons has highlighted mental health, the vitriol he gets from it and got from it, that's why I'd love to see him achieve more so than anything for the Brooklyn Nets, is for someone that openly has mental health struggles to be able to overcome those and succeed. For me, is an even bigger win than what could happen on a basketball court. I think even from when they say they're shooting the breeze, actually that's recycled old videos of Ben Simmons. I think the key is actually have rehab. A lot of people forget that he had a broken back and surgery on his back. So it's not as if it's just had a little injury or anything like that. He's had a chance to rehab. He looks fit. He looks strong. Already in the game against Lakers, our first preseason, he's driving at LeBron James. If there's anyone you're going to be intimidated by being able to drive, it's the greatest player of all time. And he's there driving, getting layups, getting to the line. So,
Paul Anthony.
Oh, Michael Jordan.
How old you are, sorry, mate. So, for anyone under 50, the greatest player of all time. But I think, so he looks strong. Like I say, you never know, because with something like that, it could take one bad fall and his confidence could be gone from that. That's the severity of the injury he had. Anyone that's suffered a really bad injury, it's always in the back of your mind. Always in the back of your mind that something could happen. But you never know. So like I say, I'm hoping I always like to support the underdog. People will see that with him doing so. The fact that he got put down, but if he can stand up from everything, then that would be more successful for me, and that would make me happy.
Do you know what, Gary? He's selling me a bit about these Nets now. Simmons is a good player.
He's a phenomenal player. He's something like you can't see, but it's just a case if he can reach that level. And the good thing is no one expects it. If you're actually involved in basketball and like basketball and understand basketball, you couldn't care less if he can shoot a free. He doesn't need to shoot a free.
No, you're right.
He's a 6'10" point guard with incredible vision that can get to the lane. So as long as he's being strong and confident and driving to the lane and facilitating others, then you've got Cam Thomas dropping 40 points a game. Then you've got Mikal Bridges averaging, what was he averaged 28 points a game at the end of last year. Then Ben Simmons never needs to shoot a free in his life.
No, you're right. You're right.
There's huge value in 6'10", 6'11" guys who can run the floor, score points, and handle the ball, and play like essentially point forward. It seems to be the future now.
Yeah. So obviously jerseys are your bread and butter. So what are your thoughts on that beautiful Magic jersey that dropped, the classic one, Blue Stars? And is it going to be going into your personal collection?
It'll be going in. I don't think it'll be going into my personal collection. My personal collection is very trimmed down now, so I tend to try and only get game worn or jerseys which mean something to me. So if I can get player stuff or things, so I actually now own my first Philadelphia 76ers jersey, because I managed to get the promo one of where they came over and played in Manchester. There was a signed 76ers jersey, and a collector from Europe knew that I do a lot with the Manchester Giants, and obviously the jersey guy, so he reached out to me, so I managed to get hold of that, because the Oklahoma City one is actually framed in the National Performance Center, so it's quite nice to have the only other one of that.
I went
the
to that game. I went to that
You were there,
game.
were you?
I was there, mate. I was there.
There we go. Yeah, it's quite a strange game. I wish I had the OKC one because KD has signed that one, and the Sixers didn't really have many superstars out then. But yeah, so the Magic, it is beautiful. It's one of the classic jerseys. I'd say that, and the don't shout at me, that and the Chicago Bulls black and red pinstripe one are sort of two of the most well-known jerseys from the time. The red one you associate with Jordan and the Bulls, and obviously the Magic one is associated with Shaq and Penny. So yeah, it's a nice bit of nostalgia, and you know, I've been commenting a little bit on Twitter about people that continue to slate Nike and say jerseys are at the worst point that they've ever been, and it's the complete opposite. You know, I see people pick out 5 jerseys which they most dislike of Nike and compare it to 5 jerseys that their favourite when they were younger. So they're basing their whole assumption on Nike off a less than 1% sample size. The good thing about Nike now is they're taking risks. And that's what you want with jersey designs. You want people to take risks. That the best jersey you can produce will be like Marmite. You want a lot of people to hate it, but you also want a lot of people to like it because it's about creating buzz and conversation around what you are designing. It's the same with any piece of art, and that's how I look at jerseys, is their art. So I may not like the paint. Yeah, I may not like the paintings which Geraint likes.
Yeah, but it's been like the space jersey the Magic had the first City year. Do you remember that one?
I absolutely loved it. Yeah, I thought it was brilliant. And a lot of people will hate that. But there's also very clever things they do. So where people are saying that their jerseys are bad, the Miami Vice series in 30, 40 years' time will go down as the greatest series of capsule jerseys there's ever been. So how can you say that their designing is at an all-time low when they're producing things like that? It's, you know, it's Marmite. Some people are going to love it. Some people are going to hate it. But yeah, Magic have got good jerseys. I like Magic jerseys. Even the orange, all. I did that. Like a lot of people were upset. Well, there we go. Yeah,
the other one. Got the other one.
But even that was clever because it was the ORL, wasn't it? It was the inverted colours of the season before, which people only realised when all the media was done about it and the announcement of it and the lights were switched. So it's just clever little things like that. And the detailing you get on jerseys now, there's always hidden little details which go like. So I think it's on the one you're wearing, Gary. So where from a distance it just looks like an orange pinstripe.
So yeah, why not us?
Yeah. So it's just little details like that matter.
There's a little rumor floating around on Twitter which I'm interested to see. I've sent it across to G if it's true, but there is a rumor floating around that the Magic City jersey this year is going to be a blue, but it's going to have the Orlando skyline and some nods towards the original font and pinstripes within it for the 35th anniversary, which I'd be interested to see because there's another leather jacket dropped recently.
It has.
And that leather jacket is predominantly blue with pinstripes on it, the Orlando skyline and the original font. And I'm wondering if that City jersey rumor is true, if it's going to be a take on that jacket.
They look good. I'm a little bit bored of City skylines because it's being done in every single league in the world now. It's like I get the image of 10 board people standing around going, right, ideas, what are we going to do? City skyscape? Yeah, let's go and get lunch. That sounds good. Like, it's just, I like them. They look good. That's why they keep doing it. But that's where it's like, do something different. Try something
like
different.
The iridescent swoosh, isn't it, Elliott?
Oh, that is the greatest ever thing that has ever been on jerseys. And the Jerry West on the back. Just like, maybe I'm a magpie in a different life and just like obsessed with shiny things. But
Don't be one of them.
It's just a brilliant addition to it, isn't it? It's just so good, especially when I sparkle it in the little lights. Like I say, when you're going to take
the one
photos,
Gary's got has got it as that's one of them. Probably can't see it on.
They were as well. That was the sign that they were the legitimate ones. because a lot of the ones that came out had just a grey.
Yeah, well, actually, the season before, the earned editions had a swoosh like that, but it was just silver. But it's like a grey silver because the earned editions were sort of the platinum range, so a lot of them were silver and grey. Some of the best.
We had one of them, mate. We had one.
The Trailblazer. I've got a mellow Trailblazers one in my personal. So it's one of my favourite ever jerseys. So it's grey with a darker grey and lighter grey stripe across it. So yeah, they had it, and hopefully they took the idea from that because those iridescent swooshes are they're so good.
I've got a Chuma Okeke one in that. There you go. That'll be a rare one. Chuma Okeke.
It will. Right. Have you got time to hang around to just go over the NBA rankings, mate? Yeah. So we can just have a quick look. ESPN have released they're called NBA Rank Panel, which is basically composed of nearly 150 reporters, editors, producers, and analysts, where they've asked to rank players based on their predicted contributions, quality, and quantity for the 23-24 season only. So we have got a long list of 100, so I'm going to try and whip through them very quickly. We have got 2 Brooklyn Nets on there, 2 members of the Orlando Magic. So I'll just read the first 50 off, reverse order. So just keep an ear out. Any of these sort of think, should they be there or not? Just keep that in your mind, all right? So 100 is Mitchell Robinson, 99 Jonas Valanciunas, 98 Colin Sexton, 97 Grant Williams, 96 Harrison Barnes, 95 Jalen Williams, 94 Russell Westbrook, 93 Mike Conley, 92 Emmanuel Quickley, 91 Josh Hart, number 90 John Collins, breathe, 89 Rob Williams, 88, Kevon Looney. 87, Buddy Hield. 86, Kyle Kuzma. 85, Anthony Simons. 84, Clint Capella. 83, Tobias Harris. 82, your boy, Elliott, Cam Johnson. 81, Bobby Portis. 80, Jalen Green. 79, Tyler Hero. 78, Scoot Henderson. 77, Jordan Clarkson. 76, Chris Paul. 75, Nikola Vucevic, Elliott's favorite player. 74, Cade Cunningham. 73, Chet Holmgren. 72, Jordan Poole. 71, RJ Barrett. 70, Walker Kessler. 69, Brooke Lopez. 68, Michael Porter Jr. 67, OG Anunoby. 66, Austin Reeves. 65, Miles Turner. 64, Rudy Gobert. 63, Scotty Barnes. 62, Kristaps Porzingis. 61, Desmond Bane. 60, DeJounte Murray. 59, Marcus Smart. 58, Jeremy Grant. 57, Zion Williamson. 56, Fred VanVleet. 55, Draymond Green. I spelled that wrong on my list. So 54, Andrew Wiggins. 53, Josh Giddey. 52, our Franz Wagner. 51, Aaron Gordon.
Is Franz the good one?
Franz is the good one. Yes. Well, Moritz is very good also. World Cup champions, I'll have you know. So Franz at 52, Magic Podcast. Is that fair?
Me or Elliott first?
Either of you. Elliott, whoever wants to jump in. Go on, Al.
Is it saying having an impact on the league or on their team?
An impact this season. So the criteria was based on their predicted contributions, quality, and quantity for the forthcoming season. It's a tough one. It is a tough one, isn't it? Because you don't know.
To me, it looks like they've done a list and forgotten some people and gone, oh, let's just chuck them in somewhere. Because like Chet being up there, Zion at 57. So if they're putting him at 57, above the players which they've said, they're saying he's going to have an impactful season. If Zion's fit and has an impactful season, he's top 10.
Okay.
Because we've seen that from the output which he's already done in his rookie seasons. He's already put up record numbers. So if you're putting him at 57, you're above all of that. So you're putting him above like Brook Lopez, who was a big reason like why Bucks finished #1 seed last year. Above Tyler Hero, you're saying Zion's fit. There's no way Zion's fit that he's the 57th most impactful player in the league. That's crap.
Maybe they're taking
I
that
don't
into
understand this list.
Yeah, maybe they're taking that into consideration. You know, he's missed a bit of time in the last 2 seasons, and maybe they don't expect him to, you know, play all season. But perhaps
He's a
But
franchise.
then I think if you're saying that, he wouldn't be 57th, would he? He wouldn't be in the list at all. He'd be like Ben Simmons, not in the list.
It's true.
I raised eyebrows at Zion when I saw him there because it's another player who I think you can kind of apply that to on that list is if you're saying the fit. So if you're saying I expect them to play, I'm looking at it and I'm going, well, I think Porzingis, if he's fit, fit, Boston possibly the champions.
62 Porzingis was.
You know, that's how good he is. He's a game changer when he's fit. So I'm looking at that and I'm going, well, would I rather have Kristaps Porzingis fit or Jeremy Grant?
Yeah. It's the same kind of thing with Chet. I think it's a bit of a cop-out list.
I would have on the Franz Wagner situation. I think Franz deserves absolutely to be on the list. I do look a little bit at that list though, and I'm like, well, I do think he's a bit better than Aaron Gordon, who's 1 spot ahead of him.
Aaron Gordon helped win the league last year, didn't he?
That's going to be the argument, but I would say if you were just looking at standalone basketball playing talent, I would put Franz, because we've seen both on a similar position team, and Franz did it and Aaron Gordon couldn't. The players that are interesting for me is just looking a little bit further down. And Wembanyama's jumped in at 47 straight away before he's touched a ball in the pros.
But Chet Holmgren as well, because he hasn't played a game.
But at 47, the names he's ahead of, like you're saying now, like guys like Josh Giddey, Franz Wagner,
LaMelo
Ball, etc. The guys who've got legit all-star claims possibly coming up in, and he's ahead of them straight away. That's worrying for me. And then I would also, and I want Wembanyama to succeed. And I also think there's a lot of people should need to look at DeAndre Ayton, because I think he's a player you're either buying stock in or there's a player who you're cashing out on there. And it's one or the other. I don't think you can say, oh, he's a middle ground guy. You're either thinking this guy's a 20-10 guy for Portland next year, or Phoenix have got rid for a reason. And I don't think there's a middle ground on Ayton. But at 49, after what I saw in the playoffs last season, I don't think I'll put Ayton up there that high. I'd put him 50s or 60s.
And we got Cam Johnson there of your Nets there, Elliott, at 82. Is that fair?
Yeah, I'd say so. I think in Brooklyn, he's been paid. He's been paid this year. He's got his contract, so I think that's right. They need to be. I think it's very hard because I think the NBA are very clever in making purposefully ambiguous lists. It's the same with the MVP. They've never actually defined what the MVP is, and they purposefully leave that open to interpretation because it creates conversation. So it gets people talking about it. They're very, very clever people at the NBA. They know what they're doing to get their engagement. So it's like a lot of these lists that you don't actually know what they mean.
Yeah.
So I've already seen on Twitter that half the arguments is this list is who's the best player now in the NBA. Another list is what impact are they going to have on this season. I think, to be honest, I think it's just an amalgamation of names. I think you could have literally put it into one of those random that for the you've obviously got your top 20 players who are the standout top 20. I think the other 80 you could put into the random wheel spinner and then just pick out each one and plop it there, and you'd be able to make an argument for or against every single one of them. It's like when I say that the talent level is that high, when you get the players just below the proper elite level, that you can have an argument for it. And that's why basketball's so fun and so unpredictable. It's because actually these players are at such a high level that some of them just make that slight step up, and it can transform a whole team. So yeah, 52. Could be right, could be wrong. Absolutely no idea.
I'll read through the top 50
Can I ask you a question before we go on?
Of course you can, yes.
If I was to read the names, Harrison Barnes, Grant Williams, Colin Sexton, okay, Jonas Valanciunas and Mitchell Robinson.
Yeah.
Do you think they are better than your boy Markel Fultz?
No, they're not better than Markel Fultz. So Markel's going to have a much better season than those guys. Yeah. I don't want to go...
I'm not trying to set a fire under you.
No.
Legitimately just want to ask that question whilst we're here.
But, I mean, they're very good players, all of them. But we talk about it every week. We're overlooked. We're never on national television. We've got one national game this season. Slowly, people are starting to turn to watch us after seeing what Paolo and France did, and Moritz and Joe Ingles in the World Cup. So that's a bit of, limelight on the Magic. They think of Markel, they think of the injury in Philadelphia, and they're not even tuning in to see how they're doing. We mentioned earlier, Al, we recorded the first part and we spoke about the New Orleans Pelicans broadcasters, and they were so insightful yesterday. They knew, the opposition team like we'd never heard before. So it was really good to hear. And I just hope that the national media, start watching us and giving, plaudits to Markel, to Wendell Carter Jr., who was on another random list. He was on the bottom tier of centers, which, unbelievable.
Yeah, I think I agree, but I think a lot of that is home bias. So I think you can take any fan base who aren't Lakers, Celtics, etc., who are on TV every time, rightly so, because they have the biggest fan bases that generates the income. That's where the demand is. But again, it's where I'm saying it's a lot of the time. I don't think it's disrespect when people are left out. It's just the fact that there's other people where there's more eyes on. I often say that it's the most overused word in NBA Twitter is disrespect. It's kind of goes back to that thing where if someone's saying I like pancakes for breakfast, doesn't mean you're saying I hate waffles. It just means that you like something different. But we all see that when you're a team which isn't in the mainstream, only you really see how good the other players are on your team. So if someone isn't mentioning them, it's not because they don't think they're a good player, it's because they haven't been exposed to them. Yeah. And that's driven by revenue and money, unfortunately. So that's why the Nets probably wouldn't have that many games this season because the stars have gone. That's just the way it is. That's the way the world works, unfortunately.
Yeah. Let me just finish off the top 50, just so the listeners just can hear the rest of it without having to go on to ESPN. So 50, you got Jarrett Allen, ex-Brooklyn Net. 49, DeAndre Ayton. 48, LaMelo Ball. 47, Victor Wembanyama. 46, Chris Middleton. 45, Julius Randle. You can boo if you want, Elliott. 44, CJ McCollum. 43, James Harden. 42, Tyrese Maxey. 41, Klay Thompson. 40, Evan Mobley. 39, DeMar DeRozan. 38, Zach LaVine. 37, Bradley Beal. 36, Darius Garland. 35, Ja Morant. 34, Kyrie Irving. Hold that thought, Elliott. We're going to come back to that in a second. 33, your boy, Mikal Bridges. 32, Jalen Brunson. 31, Jaren Jackson Jr. And at 30, is the greatest player in the NBA, Paolo Banchero. 29, Trae Young. 28, Lauri Markkanen. 27, Brandon Ingram. 27, Jrue Holiday. 25, Pascal Siakam. 24, Kawhi Leonard. 23, De'Aaron Fox. 22, Domantas Sabonis. 21, Halliburton. 20, Karl Anthony Towns. 19, Jaylen Brown. This is like the charts, isn't it? Jesus. 18, Paul George. 17, Jamal Murray. 16, Bam Adebayo. He's too high. 15, Donovan Mitchell. 14, Damian Lillard. 13, Anthony Edwards. 12, Jimmy Butler, who's too high. 11, Devin Booker. 10, Anthony Davis. 9, LeBron. 8, SGA. 7, Durant. 6, Tatum. 5, Curry. 4, Doncic. 3, Embiid. 2, Jokic. And Giannis is number 1. So I'm going to come to Elliott first because your guy Bridges at 33. And I know you've got a problem with where Kyrie's sat.
I don't see how you can have the greatest ball handler of all time as 34. And before anyone comes with anything saying against me, look at the other people that are missing all the games, which are ranked higher than them. Take away all the bullshit which people like to push. Kyrie Irving is the greatest ball handler of all time. You watch Kyrie play, and there is no better player to watch in this sport than watching Kyrie. The guy is a magician.
Maybe we should be on the Magic.
Him and Luka
Maybe we should
him
be on
and
the
Luka
Magic
together. It's 34. You've got Ja Morant one place above, and Ja Morant's missing the first 30 games, isn't he?
He is.
But this list is just
you got your Mikal Bridges is above him.
It's a very it's like I say, it's just an amalgamation. It's like when they missed Kyrie off the top 75. Actually, they didn't miss him out. He was on the list. Then Nike stuck their nose in, and he had to get removed from it. This is the problem with it: is that they can't not leave him on the list. But to be fair to Kyrie, he's been asked about it so many times that his response has been, "I don't care about any of this," which is actually funny there, which is right. But it's just like, and it's not as if he's at the end of his career. That's what I'm saying. It's not as if Kyrie's like being guy and he did it 5 years ago. Like, even if you just watch him at the moment, is bizarre list. You've got James Harden in the top 50. Who's he playing for?
Philadelphia 76ers at the moment.
He's already said, I'm not going to play for the 76ers again. So who are we saying that James Harden is going to have an impact on? The strip clubs? Because he should be number 1 if we're ranking what he's going to have an impact on. I love James Harden, by the way, but he doesn't have a team. So how you can rank it? It's like Tyler Hero being 79. Just like, who's he going to play for? Pat Riley's desperate to get rid of him. Pat Riley will offer him up in every trade possible. It's a very, very strange list. I don't get it. I'm sorry that I'm like sitting out, but I don't get what this list is. I don't understand it. You got Zion at 57.
That's all right.
It's very bizarre. But also Jokic should be number 1.
Yeah, that's a good argument. Spankaro at 30, Gary.
Just jumping on what Elliott said there, as much of a Giannis fan as I am, you cannot overlook what Jokic has done the last couple of years, and Jokic right now is the best player in the NBA, hands down. That's it. So it's Giannis, if Giannis wants to be number 1, if he really cares about this list, which he probably doesn't, but if he does, Giannis has got to win a title this season.
Where was Dame?
Was 14th.
Dame's actually 14th. He's just behind Anthony Edwards, which is
that's again why Jokic should be top, because the Nuggets is Jokic is the star. You got Jamal Murray there, who's a hell of a ball player, but it's not Giannis and Lillard, who are. And I'm going to be honest here. I've never got the massive buzz about Lillard. I think he's a good player. I think he's a little bit. I don't really get the massive hype of giving up a whole franchise with him. But Giannis is going to have to share a lot of the ball now with Dame. Jokic should be right at the top.
Yeah, I agree on being 1. As for Paolo, I think 30 is about fair right now.
Yeah.
I will say that if you're projecting on this season and what we're hoping to do, I would like to think in a rewrite, if the Magic are going to do what we think the Magic can do, maybe Paolo should be looking at spot 25. If we want to take a leap and we're going to be a playoff team, then Paolo, for me, has outperformed, or hopefully outperformed, Trae Young, Markkanen, Brandon Ingram, I think is a cracking player, Drew Holiday, and Siakam. I would think he's ahead of those. And I'll be honest with you, I'm not a huge Cat fan. Karl Anthony Towns at 20. To quote Andy Townsend, not for me, Clive. So I'll just leave that one there. And that's
Two
a
striker. Is it a failure of the season if Banchero doesn't make an All-Star, doesn't get an All-Star selection?
It depends. For me, it depends.
For him personally.
I don't think it's a failing on the season because I think there's a number of things that could happen that would stop him getting it. Like there is a very real debate out there, which G might correct me on, but you could say, well, it's 1A and 1B. And Franz Wagner has been that good that could Wagner make the All-Star team ahead of Paolo? That's possible. I don't think it's a failing. I think the failing on the season is if the Magic don't make the playoffs.
Yeah,
that's the failing, and it's the team game aspect. And I think if the Magic have made the playoffs, particularly if we've avoided the play-in, I think if we've gone straight in at say 6 or higher, if one of Paolo or Franz hasn't made the All-Star team, it's probably that they're getting talked about as a snub.
Yeah, I think they're. I think snubs are getting less and less and less. I think. I think they've worked out about it because otherwise you wouldn't get players like Laurie Markkinen wouldn't have made an All-Star last year if it was just down to popularity. I just, from an outsider, without being a Magic fan, I think Banchero is already the public perception is that Banchero is way ahead of Wagner. Is it Wagner? Wagner? What am I saying?
Only Franz to his friends.
Yeah. I think that's the perception we have. You hear a lot of Banchero. Maybe it was because it was his rookie season, but there may also be, and tinfoil hat on, it may be a disadvantage for Franz that he shares the team with his brother. Because you won't know it, like they'll get people which will lose it to the other. Like when you've just got one name being said, you always know it's that person. When you've got two bases, it's like me, I say it every time to Geraint, is he the good one?
Yeah, you do.
I don't know which one's apart, you know what I mean? But I think, I think that he should be, I think that's what his aspiration should be. I agree, it's not a failure. That was the wrong choice of words, and I'm going to criticise myself there because I hated it when they were saying to Giannis last year was them not winning the title a failure, because his answer was as perfect as it could be, maybe in your eyes, but it's what an expectation is set as. I'm excited by Magic, but I've said that for 2 seasons in a row.
This is the year, mate.
Yeah, but there's got to be a point, like I've said about Oklahoma, like OKC. I'd say Magic and OKC are 2 of my teams to watch this year. But there's got to be a point where being fun and competitive becomes a cop-out because you're a professional sports team. Every single one of those players, and I say every single player that plays in the NBA believes they are the best player that's ever played basketball. If they didn't have that mentality, they wouldn't be in the NBA. So there comes a point where you need to start winning. And I think it has to be this season. Or I feel that there has to be something done that maybe there's a change of tact. I don't know. In my mind, Orlando's a desirable place for someone to go and live. It's quite hot. It's a good place for the kids. You've got Disney World there, you know. It should be quite desirable. So I don't see why Magic can't go and get stars. So if it's a failure this year, do they stop this? We'll build up all the youngsters and go, right, let's go all in for someone.
It's the first season where I was saying to G earlier on that it's the first season in a while where I've had an expectation. I expect to be in the playoffs and expect to see a leap and then have that hope of what's to come. Do I expect us to win the title this year? No. Do I expect us to make noise this year? Yes. As a free agent destination, I think the Magic can attract them because we've done it before with Horace Grant was a big one. Grant Hill, you know, if it hadn't been for the team playing, if you believe it would have been Tim Duncan. We got T-Mac. Rashard Lewis was a pretty good pickup when we got him, etc. So I think it's there. I think at some point we're going to cash in chips, but I think they're waiting for this Donovan Mitchell style where there's a player who we didn't see becomes disgruntled, and then all of a sudden Orlando and OKC are going to have a package on the table where you've got a bunch of young players and picks which other teams can't match. And I
There's
think
a lot of players available next year too, isn't there? A lot of players, and that's another good thing for Brooklyn. Is Brooklyn have now got 11 picks in the next 7 years, with very young players. So this is next offset. I don't really get excited by trade season or anything. I think it's too complicated. I'm busy enough without having to worry about how many years of money and all these trades for future picks in 17 years, but it's only a pick if you finish in the bottom 4 or someone else finishes in the top 5 but has 3 cheerleaders. Do you know what I mean? Like everyone running their trade machines.
Oh, you sound like you're negotiating for the Lakers there.
Exactly. I'm like, I want no involvement in this whatsoever. Just tell me who my squad is at the start. But yeah, that's what I think is key for a lot of teams. That's kind of why I said that, because of the talent which is available at the end of the season. It'll be interesting to see if teams with a lot of young potential and draft picks actually have a change of tact and say, let's try and go all in. Nets won't do that because Joe Tsai cares more about dying on the bench than having a superstar. But we'll see.
Yeah. Well, I think that's gonna do it for this one. So thank you ever so much, Elliott, for joining us. We really appreciate that. Do you want to just give a shout out to your socials and where people can find you, your website, so where you can go get your next Paolo or Franz jersey?
Yeah, so the website is hoopinandluton.com. I think there's a couple of kids' Magic jerseys on there at the moment. But yeah, we've got prints, other stuff coming through. The socials, if you want to keep up to date, especially in the UK with all UK things, basketball, we're growing sport, we're starting to get recognised for making a mark in Europe. So Twitter is Luton, Instagram is Hoopin and Luton, TikTok is Hoopin and Luton. But yeah, if you get over stats in the list, you'll be the first to know about anything that goes out. Anything that goes onto the website is always previewed before it goes on there. So if you sign up to the mailing list, you'll always be in the know about any Magic stuff which is going on. And if you tune into my lives, you'll be able to see the Orlando Magic foam fingers in the background, which is always pictured on every time. So it's official. I am the #1 Orlando Magic fan because I have two.
Oh, amazing. So thank you always for listening and watching. If you like an episode, please give it a thumbs up and hit the subscribe button on our YouTube channel at Orlando Magic UK. Like us on Facebook, follow us on Instagram, TikTok, X or Twitter, whatever you want to call it, all at Orlando Magic UK. So until next week, from Gary, Elliott and myself, go Magic.